Yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend in Norman for transfer portal visitors. We got one on the horizon coming up here. We'll discuss on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that subscribe button over on YouTube. Help us to get to 10,000 subscribers.
Get it out.
We're almost there, about 70 subscribers away now. We'll hit it maybe at the end of the day, end of the week.
Nice.
Do your part, Sooner Nation. Thanks for being locked in with Locked On Sooners. The Oklahoma Sooners are going to have a very busy weekend ahead with portal visitors. According to Colin Kennedy of Sooners Illustrated and 247 Sports, one of the more recent additions to the visitor list is Jerron Bradley, the former Texas Tech wide receiver turned Boston College wide receiver. Now, we just talked about guys that have production at the collegiate level. Go back to 2022. Jerron Bradley, as a redshirt freshman, had 51 catches, 744 yards, and 6 touchdowns. In 2023, he had 36 catches, 431, and 4. Well, this past year for Boston College, didn't really emerge for the Eagles. Only 6 catches, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Another guy with size at 6'5", 220. Familiar with one Emmett Jones. I really like this potential here for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and this is kind of the example of what we're expecting from Emmett Jones, to go after guys that make sense to come here. Is going to be some guys that Emmett Jones have coached before. He's seen their production before, and he's like, okay, I think you can work good for us. So like with Jerron Bradley, unfortunately, he goes to Boston College. It doesn't work out, and that's sometimes the situation doesn't fit. Heck, their quarterback got benched midway through the season after starting the year off pretty strong with upsets against like Florida State. He hits the portal, and now he's at Florida State. So you start to see that everybody's starting to find the players that fit them best. This is an NFL model, guys. We're no longer at that collegiate of just having a whole bunch of dudes on the roster and just seeing what happens. Coaches are focused on, honestly, their jobs. You got to start finding guys that are going to be productive and help them to make sure they can keep their jobs, and they're providing you with the product that you're asking for. If you want this team to constantly win, you're going to have to go chase after the dudes that put up production. But having, I think, Gerard Butler visit is a huge one. There was another visitor as well. You got Naziah Hunter, the wide receiver from Cal. He's expected to visit sometime in the next few days, if not this weekend, early next week. Another wide receiver that had over 500 yards in receiving and 5 touchdowns there at Cal at the P4 level. So that's P4 production that a lot of you are looking for. He's going to be coming to pull up and see what Oklahoma's talking about. The good thing is, you'll be able to meet Michael Hawkins, be able to meet the coaching staff, be able to have those conversations about what the future looks like. And honestly, I'm hearing that there's some of the guys that are coming out, they have legitimate interest in Oklahoma.
Yeah, so that visit's supposed to happen this weekend, according to the folks over at Sooner Scoop and On3. Also with Reggie Virgil expected to visit on Friday. So that's 3 receivers that you're planning to have in over the weekend in the future, along with Donovan McCulley. So that's 4 guys that you're going to have a pretty good shot at. Now, a lot of schools are going to be going after these guys. So you're going to have to make a really, really strong pitch. But also, according to the guys over at Sooner Scoop and On3, George Stoya, they got a couple offensive tackles that are supposed to visit this weekend as well. Corey Robinson from Georgia Tech, Derek Simmons from Western Carolina, and Luke Belenko from Stanford. And that Stanford connection's worked out pretty well for the Sooners, but that's a position, if anything, that's when you have to go solidify. Yeah. Your pass protection was too inconsistent in 2024 to feel comfortable going into 2025. You've got some potential at offensive tackle with Logan Howland, with Jake Taylor, with Jake Sexton, with Michael Fasusi coming in, with Ryan Foje, with Isaiah Autry-Dent. There's a lot of potential at offensive tackle, but nothing that's been realized. You got to find a veteran that can go and help stabilize one side of your offensive line at offensive tackle as you let the rest of it compete on the other side. Yeah.
You're going to need to veteran up some of these positions. That was the one problem we ran into this past season. Brent Venables mentioned it. We had 81 true freshmen or true sophomores play this past season. So anyone from the true freshman, true sophomore status, redshirt freshman, and freshman, about 81 dudes played over 8,000 snaps. You're playing a lot of young guys.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. It's fortunate and unfortunate. The fortunate thing is it gets them the experience that you need at the collegiate level. So Brent Venables, Zach Alley, as well as, at the time, Joe John Finley and Kevin Johns got to play a lot of young guys. Bill Beatonbow got to play a lot of young dudes on the offensive line. But at the same time, when you play a lot of young guys, you get a lot of young mistakes. And that's just what it is. The move up from the high school level to the collegiate level is a massive jump. And like you mentioned before, John, it's not something that's the easiest for everybody. It's something that you have to figure out how to work through. Think about back in your day when you were a kid trying to figure out life at 18, 19 years old. How perfect were you? None of us were. I mean, I wasn't a troublemaker, but I wasn't the perfect kid. But, a lot of us had to deal with stuff. That's what it is. And so they're trying to adjust to being young adults while at the same time going to college and playing college football, which is a full-time job. So you got to find those dudes that you don't really know it until they get there, what the work ethic truly looks like. Because everybody trains in high school and puts up some really cool videos, but you don't know until they get out there and they have to go through the grind. And as Brent Venables would say, you need that strain. You got to have that strain where you're trying to push yourself to the next level. You don't find that out until they get on the campus if they really got that gene, that OU DNA to do that. So you're going to see a lot of visitors pulling up over the next few days. You'll probably see some commitments over the next 48 hours. Do not be surprised if guys go ahead and commit, because some of them are committing early because they've decided that's where they want to be. And some of the schools have certain guys that are like, yeah, I think I want. But as we said before in the first segment, the transfer portal giveth, the transfer portal taketh away. And there's going to be a lot of dudes entering the portal over the next 2 weeks, especially once the playoffs are done. As these teams finish their seasons, that's when you're going to see more dudes jump in the portal.
You gave me a little bit of a PTSD flashback to when I was 18 in my first semester of college. And that, like that first group of tests and papers and stuff that all comes due at the same time.
Ooh,
oh, man, that gave me a little bit of palpitations.
Trying
to remember that. So imagine being 18, also your first collegiate football season, and that first group of tests and papers come together. One more offensive tackle, Ethan Onyanwa from Rice, also expected. Aton Onyanwa expected to visit Oklahoma this weekend as well. So Oklahoma, they're looking heavy at two positions: offensive tackle, wide receiver, and also going to be looking at a tight end. That Luke McGarry out of Tulsa. I know people kind of poo-pooed it when they first saw it because it's Tulsa, and Tulsa was boo-boo this year. But everybody's after this kid. Everybody's trying to get him. Literally everybody's trying to get Luke McGarry. So follow the offer sheet, and that gives you an indication as to if a player is pretty good or not. So, hey, we had a few Sooners receive some big-time honors. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Locked On.